Greetings and welcome to another episode of I Survived Youth Group in the 90s. I'm your host, Scott, and with me as always is my nostalgic co-host, Caleb. Caleb, how you doing? It's been a little while. Happy holidays to you.
Has it been? Yeah, it's been a couple weeks. Yes, yes,
Yep,
it has
yep.
been a little while. Am I feeling nostalgic? I don't know if I am. Maybe I am. I don't know how I'm feeling.
Well, I throw that word here because we have a very special guest today that I hope will make many, many listeners feel nostalgic, and it's finally time. Who's our guest?
Oh, yes, our guest. That's right. We're doing a show.
This is not
Uh,
about you.
our guest today was John. John, our youth pastor. He was the only youth pastor you and I had. He
Correct.
was there our entire time. I know we've talked to other youth pastors, but he was our youth pastor for our entire time at Five Oaks.
That is true, and we've mentioned him multiple times.
Yes.
He's the motivation for this show, and let's be honest, we've sat on this for a while. To the audience out there, there's no reason not to say it. We did this back in May, and we're
Yeah, May or
releasing it.
April. Yeah.
Yeah, we're releasing this the last mo week of December 2025, and a lot has happened for John since then. He's retired.
Yeah.
And at this point, we did record when he was still working, but he retired since then, and now he's off living his best life, hiking with his wife, visiting his kids and grandkids. So lots changed since then, but we felt like this was the right time to do it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad it worked out to do it. I mean, I think that was, number one was it was pretty fun to actually get to interview him. Like, again, like you said, kind of the reason the show came about in a lot of ways. I mean, it definitely all ties back to that time for us at Five Oaks and with him as the leader. So I think to actually get to kind of include him in this, I think it feels like the right thing to do, and it felt like it did feel like we kind of just jumped right back in. Like I hadn't
Yeah,
probably talked to
nothing
John.
changed.
It had been a while since I had talked to John.
Yeah.
I don't know how long, but it had been a while, and it kind of was just like jump right back in. So it was kind of fun like that.
Yeah, I think for the people who know him, especially the ones who know him well, um, they'll realize that not much has changed with him, which is great because he was good at his job and he really put in so much effort to help us out during those high school years. But if you were to give me the audio of John on this episode and compare it to audio, not just his voice, but the things he would say and the way that he talked about kids and the way that he talked about Jesus, and it's it's pretty much the same, which is great. I mean, he's just always had that passion to communicate the gospel to youth and also to kind of give kids, youth, their best, um, give them the best option to live their best life as high schoolers. And, he did the best way he knew how. And he was really involved with many, many, many kids' lives during that time, not just ours. This was a situation where there's hundreds of kids going through the youth group year after year, and he kind of talks about that a little bit, right? He talks about the numbers game and how that was kind of a metric by which your success was measured, and is that the best way to count success as a youth group, that sort of thing. So it was kind of interesting to talk about. But man, we went down many rabbit holes for many stories. So we hope this isn't too specific to Five Oaks. It's really not. But for those Five Oaks people in the audience, you'll recognize a few unique stories to our church.
Yeah, I think it's got enough. Like it captures what probably a lot of 90s youth pastor experiences were like in a lot of ways. Like,
Hmm.
that whole idea of like going to college to do this. Like, that's
Yep.
a whole thing that we talked about in one of the first episodes of like the idea of like, oh, youth ministry is a career, wasn't a career in the 60s, and
Right.
now it is. And he's an example of that. So yeah, I think it covers quite a bit. And then it even just covers like, his transition out of it and some of the ways he stays connected. And, his son is doing youth ministry now and how
Correct.
that's kind
Yep.
of happened. And, so yeah, I think it's there's enough variety on here that I think it'll hopefully it'll keep people interested, and maybe it'll, help paint a picture of why you and I are the way we are.
Well, absolutely. For the bad parts, it's John's fault, and for the good parts, also John's fault. No, just kidding. We were really thankful they took such a long amount of time to speak with us. I can imagine if you are in any profession and someone comes out 30 years later and makes a podcast about your job, you doing your job when you were in your 30s. You might feel like it's a bit of a referendum on how well you did, and that was never the intention of the show at all. It was just that youth group's a little bit of a unique thing, right? It's a very important, intimate setting for a lot of kids, and a lot of parents still want their kids going to youth group. And talked about many times on the show how we bring our kids to youth group and that sort of thing. It still survives in the way that even though it's changed in many ways. But this was in no way trying to find bad stories, or it was never meant to be like, oh, I wanted to tell John this, but I never could, so I'm going to start a podcast. It really wasn't it. He was always so interested in us growing as we matured through high school, and I think really set us up for success. Now it's me talking, and maybe not everyone has the same memories as me, but he really that was his passion to set us up for success spiritually down the road.
Yeah, and he was learning as he went. I mean, that was the other really kind of unique part about this is Five Oaks was basically a second job. I mean, as a youth minister. And so like, yeah, he was learning as he went. So like, I don't think he'd be foolish enough to say, "Oh yeah, I did everything right." I think he pretty fully
No.
admits like, yeah, it was a learning process and there was, as you went. And so I think that's also, it's kind of I those are things I had forgot about when we talked. Like,
Hmm.
that this was kind of, yeah, he had one other job. He was fairly young at this. He was fairly new at it. And like, it's kind of one of those things where it kind of comes back to you and you're like, oh yeah, that does also help paint the picture. There's a lot of this as we've talked to, especially we talked to the Williams and then we talked to John. Like, it's like, oh yeah, this paints a picture of stuff that I knew, but I didn't totally remember or I didn't have the whole
Hmm.
picture. And it's like, oh yeah, that's interesting to look at it just with a slightly different perspective. So
Sure. And we were never meant to understand all of it from that perspective
yeah,
as 16, 17-year olds. Um, that being said, this is a good time to make an announcement because I have one more comment on John's involvement in this podcast. And that announcement is that this is the last formal episode of I Survived Youth Group in the 90s. We are officially wrapping the show up. We feel like this project is done. We may do things in the future. In fact, you and I will do kind of a wrap-up show on how things have gone and what we've learned, that sort of thing. It's kind of a final conclusion, let's say. But when I threw this idea out on Facebook many years ago, what, 4 years ago now, and you really pushed us to get to this point, I remember John commenting on that Facebook post to say, I'll be on your podcast. And I commented back to him and I said, "You're the finale." It's
sure.
just kind of as a joke. And it turns out that's it, that he's the finale. And for good reason, right? He's obviously heavily involved, but just with your music show and the way that, things have gone for me too, and just getting busy, like we do this as a hobby. No, there's obviously no advertisers here, or we're not getting paid for any of this, and it's been a really fun ride, and a lot of people have really shared some pretty meaningful stories that we don't take for granted, especially to put it out in a public forum. But we just thought, you know what, every good thing comes to an end. The project is kind of over. We've had a lot of conversations that will be, up forever, so people can go back and listen. And hey, if somebody wants to have a conversation about their youth group time, we can always throw it up on our feed, maybe your feed on your music show, that sort of thing. But officially, we're not going to be releasing episodes in any sort of meaningful, consistent form from here on out.
Yeah, I threw it out there because I'm starting a Patreon on the music show. Like it's an extra show behind the paywall. So like that
Hmm.
might be a good opportunity if we feel like there's a good opportunity to have a conversation like this. Like, yeah, we'll throw it out there and like so that we might still do some other things here and there with stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think for right now it feels like okay, this is a good break spot. We'll say indefinite hiatus that, 2 years from now, maybe we'll be in a different spot and we'll bring the show back for a period of time or something. But yeah, done for now, done in 2026. And
Yep.
so yeah.
Who knows? And I'm sure there's a handful of people, maybe, probably not actually, who are like, you were just on a hiatus and now you've released 4 episodes and now you're done. It's like, yep, that's kind of a signal that we don't have the time and energy to figure this out at this point. It's been super fun. I've really enjoyed talking with you and having these conversations with you and others. You've done a great job as co-host. You always follow up with really great questions. You're really good at listening, and you really love these comments, I know, and compliments. But I've really enjoyed doing this with you, and continue our friendship in this way. But at the same time, I'll be, I hope to come back on your podcast, your music podcast from time to time. So I'm not going to be a stranger or anything, but at this point, enjoy it for what it is, right? These conversations are really fun to listen to, and I still go back and listen to some of the ones that we've done.
Yeah, yeah, the feed will be out there. It's not going away. Spotify isn't deleting anything, so
Nope.
they'll be out there. And yeah, I'm glad we got to do this. It was I swear it was 2022. You mentioned it, and I was like, that's a cool
Yep.
idea. I was talking to somebody recently, and they were like, I was talking to the show is coming to an end, and they were like, oh. I was like, yeah, it's a much better idea than the music show. I'll fully say it. Like, there's like 10,000 music shows. Like, you don't need, it's like,
Yeah.
but it's also, it's coordinating less schedules. It's, there's
Yeah.
just there's an ease to that one that I've kind of got it baked into some other things that it's like, all right, well, we can keep one of these going. And yes, you'll be back on the music one. I already know at least one show coming up this spring that you'll be on.
Hmm.
So yeah, you'll still be around. There's still chances to hear from us. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be fun to keep going that way. But
yeah,
everyone who dedicated their time to talking with us, we thank you very, very much.
yeah.
To everyone who decided it was worth your time to listen, we thank you very much because there's, like Caleb said, there's plenty of podcasts to listen to, and you decided to listen to ours, and that's something we really are thankful for and appreciate. So we hope this interview is something that you enjoy, and if you followed along, you'll probably feel a sense of understanding at least, and if not closure, just based on the way that John has influenced us. So, John, thank you very much for being our finale and working, well, being so patient with us to release it because it's like once every 6 weeks, he's like, guys, are you going to release that or was it bad or why isn't it out yet? It's like, we're just frankly being lazy and that's
It's
something we just
uploaded.
do.
It just
It's
is not the right time.
right. You know what? God's timing is perfect. But at the end of the day, it's a fun way to wrap this up. So, Caleb, thank you very, very much for all your editing and dedication and co-hosting. Listeners and interviewees, thank you very, very much for your time. And we really hope that you enjoy this last episode of I Survived Youth Group in the 90s. Cheers.
I want to break in and quickly remind everyone that the views and opinions expressed on this episode of I Survived Youth Group in the 90s may not be held by or even approved of by everyone appearing on this episode. One of the goals of this show is to give everyone a safe space to share their opinions and thoughts on deeply personal matters of faith. We are not looking to start an argument, but instead we want to let people share how they feel. During our interviews and discussions, we may not represent every point of view on a given subject, and we understand that this may be frustrating at times, but it is the nature of a podcast discussion with a limited amount of time. We also know and want to acknowledge that our memories of events that happened 25 to 30 years ago may not be 100% accurate. We assume everyone's best intentions as they share how they remember the experience of their youth. Now, back to the show.
Okay, I'm very excited. This has been a long time coming. We are joined by our very old and very dear friend, John. Not only a friend, but our former youth pastor. John, thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm great. I don't know if I like the word very old.
I meant like,
Going right for
sure,
it.
it's like,
I mean, it's
the
like
the
you go down to
friendship is
Waistcott.
old.
right
the
away
friend,
it's like, oh, our friend and very old
yeah,
pastor.
we can redo it, but maybe
No, keep
maybe I'll
it.
edit it
No,
out.
please don't redo it. This is perfect. We're gonna have authenticity. Let's have it.
That's right, straightforwardness. All
Yep.
right, first things first. Many people need to know the kidnapping was a real thing.
You know what? It's funny you said that because until I saw when we would initially you sent me a couple of questions, you asked about that. I'm thinking, wow, we did do that, didn't we? Yes, it was real. We did we did not only kidnap, we blindfolded them. So if
Oh
you
my
remember this,
gosh.
we blindfolded
Oh yeah,
students. Oh yeah, and it took them out of their house screaming.
oh yeah.
And yeah, I don't. I'm not sure that would fly today. In fact, yeah, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't.
I think there's
So
no
yes,
way.
it was definitely a real thing. But you're talking 30 years ago for you guys. It was
1995 at
over
least.
30
Yeah,
years ago. Yeah.
yeah,
So
for sure. Things change. That's why we're here. That's why we're here to chat. But
yes.
I like that's the one I always go back to, and a lot of people because we talked to Five Oaks people at the beginning, we kind of branched out to other people, and they were like, "Oh yeah, everyone remembers," and kind of the generation after us was anticipating it because at a certain point it wasn't a surprise anymore; it was kind
No.
of a setup. But I do distinctly remember us getting pulled over, so you were really pushing that, almost getting arrested line.
I forgot about that. Thank you. I actually remember it was near the PDQ or whatever where I got
Yep.
picked up. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the cop was good about it, but yep, I do remember that.
Blindfolded kids in the back, probably
Yep.
crying a little bit.
Yeah. It
I
was a
was I
good
was
day.
impressed. I was impressed by you many times, but especially then to get yourself out of that situation.
I have talked my way out of cops more than once. So thank you for bringing that up.
Well, we're here, and I don't know how much you've entirely kind of gone through. I know we sent a few episodes, but you have to know that the genesis for this idea and podcast was the saying you would always have for us, which is, "I don't care where you're at now. I care where you're at 10 years from now."
Yep.
Well, here we are. It's 30 years later, and we've all gone on these different journeys of to bring us where we're at today. And so I was very interested in those journeys because some things are different, some things are not. But that saying of yours was the reason, and Caleb can back me up on this. It was the reason we wanted to start talking to people.
Yeah. Scott's been
So
talking about this idea for like 5 years and was like, I think it's a good idea. I think we should try and do it. And so, yeah, it all came from that.
yeah,
Yeah, that's still been my heart. I had that same with my own kids. We felt that both my wife and I felt, our kids, it was about our kids owning their faith. And yeah, teenage years was, I mean, we loved our kids as teenagers, but it was really about where they're at as adults and do they own their faith and where are they at? So,
hmm
yep.
yeah. We'll kind of dive into some of those questions about maybe how you're trying to do that in the midst of coaching us through teenage years.
Yep.
But this conversation, I'm actually quite curious from your perspective how all that the youth group was all set up and what it meant for the church and things like that. So, in this situation, I'd like to start at the beginning, just kind of your career. How did you get interested in youth ministry in the first place?
Yeah, good question. So when I was 18 is when I met Jesus. Honestly, it was I'd kind of grown up in the church, but I was disillusioned. And when I became a Christian, when I crossed that line of faith, I was about 18 years old, and it really kind of rocked my world. It just changed everything about who I was. In fact, it kind of freaked my parents out, I think, a little bit. And so I ended up going to a Christian school, which is in the Twin Cities, Northwestern University or whatever it is now.
Sure.
And it really changed my life. And I remember it as a freshman, I said to my parents, I really believe I belong in youth ministry. And my parents said no.
Hmm.
And so then I'm like, okay, what do I do? And they said you can't support a family, whatever, all that kind of stuff. And so I just started praying about it. So I ended up with a double major, one in Bible and also in business management. And I remembered I got married right as I was graduating, and I told my wife, said, Michelle, I think I really belong in ministry. So I put her through school because she had another year and a half left of school. And when she graduated, I kind of left, went back to school a little bit, then became a youth pastor. But it was having a heart for really for me. I wanted to go into youth ministry because I wanted to minister to people kind of like me who kind of was either disillusioned or
Mm.
wanted to reach students to help them know that they're loved by a God who's kind of crazy about them, right? So that a little bit is what started me into youth ministry.
Awesome. I know that I came along after you had started at Five Oaks, but Caleb was there
Yeah,
before.
when we started, so I had been in student ministries for about 2 years at a different church, and then was at Five Oaks for 15 years. And I say
Mm.
this, that Five Oaks is still kind of our home. I mean, it really is, even though we've been away for about 18 years at a church out here in Pittsburgh, that really was kind of the impetus for us to have our connections and really have a love for the church was through Five Oaks. And Caleb was one of the five. There were five students that were, when they hired me and they brought me in, they really had the vision of, we have five students and we want to have a youth ministry, not we have all these kids, let's hire a
Mm.
youth pastor. They hired a youth pastor to kind of build this ministry. And so Caleb was one of the students, and there were four or five other ones along with that.
Yeah, so he was already there.
Yep.
We've talked to a few people who have really seen the same thing happen that we did back during that time, and I continue to be fascinated by it because it's not that Woodbury or Five Oaks was the only place youth group was happening. It was exploding kind of everywhere, and
Yeah.
sometimes if churches were too small, they would get different groups from around town and create a youth group, or like smaller churches would just have huge youth groups. And at a certain point, the story goes, at least with Five Oaks, the youth group kind of got to be as big as the rest of the congregation or bigger. So, like, from your perspective, like, that was happening under your watch as you came in. Like, why was that happening?
Well, I really do believe it was everything to do with the Holy Spirit, everything to do with the Lord, because in the Old Testament there's a story about Balaam's donkey and God using an ass. Well, I'll be honest, he used another one with me, and
Yes.
yeah, and but
Excellent.
I say that somewhat sarcastically, but somewhat very genuinely, in the sense of the church was extremely supportive, and so whatever we would have done, they were gonna bless,
I
and
see.
they were willing to do whatever. So we were a youth group with a church instead of being a church with a youth group. It got to be we had 120, 130 students, and the church was maybe 100. And I remember Pastor Henry, when he came to the church, he said, "Listen, if we're going to grow as a church, we can't have a youth group with a church. We need to have a church with a youth group." And so we just had to reshuffle things a little bit. But the church was as supportive. Whatever we needed, they did more. Whatever we asked for, they did double.
Mm.
So it really was the leadership in the church that was extremely supportive of the vision and the heart to saying, we're willing to do whatever it takes to reach people for Jesus, and they
Mm.
did.
Yeah, for as many kids as were coming, like me, whose parents didn't even go there, like
Yep.
something was happening at the time, and you were kind of there at the right time.
But I would also say Caleb and others had a heart for reaching out to their friends. I mean, we talk about, but I mean, there's other students that came along that had no church affiliation at all, and they had a place where people cared about them, and they felt, I don't mean safe, but just maybe safe emotionally, but felt like they could be themselves and not feel like, okay, I don't fit in, but I fit in here. And I
Hmm.
think there were people like Caleb and others who were willing to invite people, and then so did you, Scott, when you came, started inviting friends.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and friends that are still. I mean, we don't talk to some of those guys as much as we used to, but kind of as you were saying before recording, if we're close, we could call them up and hang out, and it would just feel
Absolutely.
like
Yep.
back in the day, which is a real blessing, honestly.
Yeah.
A real blessing. Right now, we go to a church that's in downtown Minneapolis. It's far. It's about 20-25 minutes away. None of those students are going to my son's. He'll be in high school next year. And I was just having this conversation with him this past weekend after his event. I was like, "Do you think we should go to a different youth group so you can have those same friends in high school?" As if like that was such an important thing to me and to Caleb and to all these other people, because it wasn't like you were just in two different places. It was like that same community was happening in both spots. So I don't know. We really love the other church, so it's not like we're probably going to move. I just wish I could emulate that for him because it was so great.
Yeah. And our kids, I would say our own teenagers had that when we left Minnesota, we left Five Oaks, our son was just in junior high, and we
Mm.
had a support group we joked about it, but I think there was 7 or 8 seventh grade boys and the parents, and he had this community at Five Oaks.
Hmm.
And here, when we moved out here, the kids were close with a lot of the other students, but it wasn't just really one school. It's broken up a little bit more into quite a few other schools around here.
Interesting. Yeah, it kind of was all cultivated at the same time, and still consider myself lucky to be part of it.
Yeah.
In terms of just the youth group itself, I have my memories. Caleb has his, but what are some of your most vivid memories from your time as a youth pastor? Vivid can be good or bad. And
Yeah, there's a lot, and I don't know how much I can share because there's a lot of memories I have. No, we really, if you want to ask us the most fond memories I've ever had, I'm just celebrating 35 years in ministry. They really were at when I was a youth pastor, and I never stopped having a passion for student ministries. I still do, believe it or not. In fact, through the years, I think we've joked about we've had probably 75 to 100 students, college students, live with us.
Hmm.
We
wow.
we don't charge them a dime. They can live here. In fact, we're meeting with a young lady tonight, needs a place to stay for the summer, and so we do it. So we have a heart and a passion for young people. It still burns, even though I got out of student ministries, I still have a heart for that. So when we look back to Five Oaks, we look back with the best memories. I'll never forget when we were moving. We were moving, and I had told, I think it was one of you guys actually, but I remember we were putting our house on the market, and all of a sudden, this entourage of about a dozen students are at my house, toilet papering my house. And I said, I heard this rumbling outside, and I look outside, and there's toilet paper everywhere, and I yell, and I go, "What are you doing?" And then all of a sudden, this person comes out from the tree, and the other person comes out, and then there's 12, and you guys all came in my house, and I'm like, "What are you guys?" And they were toilet papering my house, and the person I told said, "I'm putting on my house on the market tomorrow morning," and I remember that vividly. I remember the evolution of the kidnapping, but also we called it, I think we started at, was it Motel Weekend or Motel
Mm,
Getaway? It was
Yeah.
Camp Getaway. I think the retreats like that were big. For me, it was all about watching students who maybe didn't have a church, didn't have any kind of church affiliation, and watching them come and kind of feeling like they can fit in. I think those are the good memories.
hmm.
Bash night or barf. I think we called it barf night. Didn't we call it
Barf
barf
night.
night in the
That's,
beginning?
Bring a
yeah,
real
bring a real
friend.
friend.
Bring a real friend. Yeah, I think, gosh, that comes back to me now. Yeah, so those memories. There's other memories. I don't know if you were around when we set the house on when the house got put before the house got put on fire. They had a bonfire, and the fire trucks came and the police all came, and I wasn't there, and so I had to come and I tried to explain. Uh, I think there were 3 or 4 fire trucks and a water truck coming, and had to talk my way out of that one.
Again, talking your way out of almost getting arrested.
I did, and I remember I remember those days quite well. But yeah, they're great memories. I really don't have a lot of negative ones, or it's maybe like childbirth. Not like I have experience with that, but they say you only remember the good.
Right.
I mean, we did get the inside scoop on the fire that
Yep.
you actually did get a fine. I mean, the church did get fined.
But did you hear how much?
Yeah, it was like tiny. Yeah, it was like
It was
50 bucks or
25
something.
bucks. It was a $25. And so I'm going to repeat this now because I don't care anymore. I think the statute of limitation is gone.
Yep.
But Joe Layton, at the time, Joe was the chairman of the board, and he called me up and he goes, "I'm not going to, if you say this, I'll deny it, but thank you. It just saved us a lot of money." And, because I got a permit. I actually got a permit. And so because I had a permit, they looked the other way. And so all the thousands of dollars, they just charged me because they gave me a fine of 25 bucks because it was beyond the permit that I had. So I paid a $25 fine to get rid of all of this other stuff. It was perfect.
And that's like 4D chess right there. Well
Oh,
done.
it was good. And Joe said, "I'll deny it," but John, way to go. I'm proud of you. And I was like,
Sounds like
all
Joe.
right. I can't believe you found that out, Caleb. That's really good.
Brant was on the show.
Yeah, we had
Oh my
Brent on.
gosh.
He told the story of you pulling him into his office and kind of like, "Hey, I got bad news.
Yeah.
We got and he's like, yeah, we got this fine. And he's sitting there kind of going, oh my gosh, it's going to be thousands of dollars. I'm in so much trouble. And then you told him the real total. So
Yeah, it was
yeah,
25 bucks. So, yep.
he was scared.
I don't think I scared Brant much at all. There was not that much that I think scared Brant. Nope. Ben would have been another one I would have liked to scare it a little bit, but I didn't.
We got to get him on here, Caleb.
Yeah,
talk
we've
to him.
talked
Yep.
about it.
Yep. I also have to ask, have you forgiven me for cracking your windshield with my butt?
No, in fact, my wife is in the background over here, and she's putting her arms up going, woo. So, yeah, so that story is, I had this car, a station wagon that my dad had given me, and it was an 81 Chevrolet station wagon. I love that car.
Yep.
But it was so old that I remember driving this at one of our retreats, I think, with our leadership team, and you jumped on the windshield and it caved in, and they had nothing to put the windshield to because it was rusted all the way around it.
Yep.
And they said, we have to get rid of the car. And you felt so bad. And my wife came up to you, hugged you, and thanked you. And she did. She thanked you. And I was like, you jerk, what did you just do to my car? And my wife, I couldn't say that to you at the time, right? Because
Right.
you're a kid. And my wife was so overjoyed that we had to get rid of this car. And she was very, very thankful for you, Scott.
I'm glad you reminded me of that aspect of the story because all I remember is the shame and embarrassment of causing you damage to this really old, well-loved car. I completely forgot that Michelle was like, yes,
Oh, she
finally.
was thrilled.
Yeah.
She was so thrilled. I remember she came up and hugged you and said, thank you. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she was like, no, thank you, Scott. And she's in the background right here, still putting her hands up in the air. I wish you could see this. She's like yes, it's awesome. Because we both remember that car. Oh man, it was like the Flintstones because you could see the ground
Oh, yeah.
as going along.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No, I remember that, Scott. I remember where you jumped in. I remember where you hit it.
etched in your brain.
Oh, it is actually. I forget a lot of things. I have not forgotten that.
Well, that station wagon is like youth group lore because you were just driving everyone around in it. You could fit a bunch of us in it.
Oh yeah, I could. There was I did put a lot and seat belts. What are seat belts? I mean,
Nope.
I don't even know what that is. No one
Yeah.
had I didn't have enough seat belts.
Yeah. Yeah, you destroyed Ryan's foot also with it.
You know
Like
what?
it played many parts of the youth group stories.
So I remember. Well, here's the best part of that. I remembered running over his foot, but then he was screaming so much that I went forward and ran over it again. So I ran over it twice, and we went to Mexico.
yeah, yeah.
We went to Mexico with that, and that. Oh, I vividly remember he had a cast on, right, in a boot
Oh, yeah.
going to Mexico, and I ran over it and then ran over it again. So I didn't run over it once; I ran over it twice.
Just to make sure.
Well, and he did jump in front of the car. I don't care what anybody says; it was on him. I did nothing wrong.
Get him on to verify. He can confess now too. It's 30 years later.
Yeah.
I don't think his story is going to be the same.
I know. I have no doubt it will not be the same, but yeah, he was young. He doesn't remember it all too well, I'm sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
I do love, and you talk about, I think the mission trips were also a big deal, especially the orphanage. In fact, still have a close relationship with that orphanage. Here in Pittsburgh, we went down there for the first, probably even as of just 5 years ago, we were down there.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's beautiful. I mean, I have a heart for that area down there, so that's been really neat.
Yeah, we talked about that on another episode and then looked it up. It's like, hey, it's still around. Still a thing.
And he's
That's
still
amazing.
the guy who his name was Jim, still oversees the orphanage. His wife passed away not that long ago, but he's still down there, still the director of the orphanage, and still kind of the same ministry. It's really neat.
Yeah, that was really formative. Just getting us. I mean, sometimes getting us out of our comfort zones was a lot, but that was a real situation where it's like the food, the sleep. Speaking of what I was telling before about sleeping on the floor, like you just did it, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So everyone came out just fine as far as we know. So
Yeah.
in terms of just the youth group and in the relationship to the church, like what did our youth group mean specifically for that congregation? I know you talked about Henry wanting to make sure that, you know, the congregation stayed up in terms of numbers with the youth group itself, but like What did that youth group mean as like part of the identity of the church?
Yeah, I think for as long as we were there, it I don't want to say it was the identity, but it really was. It they really cared and I want to make sure that you hear me when I say Henry. Henry wanted the youth group to be, I mean, to thrive, and he supported, gave it whatever it needed. But so did the whole, I mean, so did the whole board.
Mm,
They were so supportive, and they would do anything for the youth ministry. I can't stress that enough. I'll never forget. I had the whole board. Every single person on the board was a volunteer or went to
Hmm.
the camp getaway. And if I
mm,
would ask for this kind of money, they'd look at me and say, "I don't think that's enough. You need this." It was just an unusual church at that time of where whatever was asked, they would do more or double it.
hmm.
Hmm.
There was a tremendous amount of trust, but there was also a lot of love for wanting to just help students meet Jesus. So it wasn't. I don't know if I would see that a lot anymore today. I mean, I'm sure there are churches out there that do that, but it just maybe was the perfect storm, the perfect time where the adults and Caleb, your parents were part of that, and but other ones of just saying, hey, whatever it takes.
Hmm.
And I was a young or younger I mean, maybe not younger when I was at Path at Five Oaks, but I was probably in my late 20s. And so I
Sure.
also had a lot of energy, and they kind of went along with some of what I wanted to do and tolerated it, and
Hmm.
it paid off. So
Yeah, I mean, the fond memories of those adults being very involved. It wasn't just you running the show. You had
no,
all this help, but to know that they were like, yeah, do it, keep doing it, because
they
obviously
were.
something was working.
It was, and they did, and they were like, "Look, if God's going to show up, let's just do it." And like Henry, how many senior pastors showed up on a weekend and would
Yeah.
go and play football at a retreat? He did. He showed up and just played football. Or how many people on the board would show up and be cooking and doing all that? They were really, really good and very much cared for what we were doing, and I think they just also realized, okay, this is what God's going to do right now, so let's support
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
And they did.
That's awesome. In general, like, what are some of those things that happen behind the scenes, or things that we wouldn't understand, or maybe even take for granted as a youth in the youth group? What are some of those challenges and difficulties that you or youth pastors have trying to run a youth group, especially that size?
Yeah, it depends how old you are. And all I mean by that is so oftentimes, well, teenagers are, and you guys both have teenagers now. So the temperamental, the emotions, the ups and the downs, as a youth pastor, it's easy to get your self-esteem kind of linked into the students coming or not coming, or I'm not
Mm,
coming anymore, or I love this or I don't love that. It's easy to get your, I don't want to say your self-esteem, but even the value of who you are as a pastor linked into that.
Hmm.
So what you just have to make sure that while you're in it, and the challenges, I think, as you get older, you start realizing, okay, listen, God's in control, and He's going to bring who He's going to bring, and where's my identity is in Christ, it's not in all of this. But you do get caught up in all of that. I'd also say part of my challenge as just who I am, how I'm wired, is I care pretty deeply.
mm,
I really care for people passionately. And so when they hurt, sometimes I kind of feel, I walk through some of that, and I hurt. And sometimes you have to separate yourself a little bit from that,
mm,
because when they're going through challenges, you're not going to be effective if you're so heavily invested. And so sometimes I think the challenges for me, I had to walk through that. I think sometimes too, and I don't think I struggled a lot with this, maybe a little bit, but you care about size, you care about numbers, and honestly, in the end, it doesn't matter. But I think sometimes that's how you're also getting evaluated, or at least
sure,
that's how you think you're getting evaluated.
sure.
Whether or not you are, I don't know. But so yeah, so those are some of the challenges of a youth pastor, at least back then. I felt. And I didn't really have a cookie cutter approach. I was kind of unusual because I was highly organized, but I was highly relational, and I often didn't do what other people did,
Mm,
which was good or bad. Sometimes there were things that were working that I didn't do, and sometimes I did things because it was just how I was wired too. Does that answer your question, Scott?
no, please continue. No, it's great.
Yeah, that was a good
It's-
answer.
yeah, I mean, I can see where like the size, especially if you got something that's growing that grew organically so much, and at some point naturally churches and things plateau a little bit, but I can see how there's a lot of identity wrapped up into, a little bit of the whole like, well, if our goal is to bring people to Jesus, we want to invite them in. So inviting them in naturally means more and more kids
Or what
coming in.
happens the next year when you had 150 kids and then you have 200, but the next year you have 125? Well, what are you doing wrong? Well,
Yeah.
maybe nothing, but so it's based. Sometimes you're basing that on numbers, and that's not always the best approach. But you can get caught up. You can sometimes get caught up in that. I'd also say I was just fortunate that I have a wife that keeps me in line, in just emotionally, but everything else, which
Hmm.
I know both of you have. And so, she's just was been very good along the way. We've been married the whole time I've been in ministry, and she's been a very good compass or
Hmm.
just reminder to me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Partners are very, very important. can't
Yep.
can't make that happen
Yep.
without
Very
them.
much so.
Speaking of like support people, we often get comments about, in fact, probably the most common comment we get is the adults who were volunteering their time and pouring their lives into mine was like the most important thing to me.
Yep.
Not and maybe that was the youth pastor depending on size, but it was, that had to be those other people around who were just volunteering or like you said showing up at events. Like how important were those people, and if you got a chance to maybe speak to some of those who you haven't spoken to in like 30 years, like what would you say to them now?
So it's interesting you say that. So I'm going back for my 40th class reunion to southern Minnesota this fall. And it's interesting. I had two people when I was a brand new Christian, a senior in high school, that just poured into me. I just had a couple months left of high school. And I'll never forget when my mom died. We stayed with them during my mom's funeral.
Hmm.
And I got a chance to thank them for what they did to me, put up with. I mean, literally at a Bible study, I didn't know anything. And there were 25 questions, and I was the one who asked 24 questions because I just didn't know anything. And they put up with me. And one of the reasons I'm excited to go back to my class reunion is to spend an afternoon with them,
Hmm.
this couple, and just thank them for putting up with me
Sure.
and uh, and getting to see him again. And so I would say, boy, there. I'll give you an example. There are so many volunteers. I'll use one example. Stephanie,
Hmm.
who I remember when Stephanie just started, and she was a small group leader, and she was so effective. And she was young. She might have been 22. I don't even remember how old she was at the time, but she just sat and listened and loved on the girls and loved on the teenagers and took them out for whatever, took them out for lunch or whatever. And I just remember the impact that had on these girls and so many of the volunteers of just being there, giving up a night of their week. You don't realize the impact you have on these students until, I keep on saying 5 or 10 years, but you look back and then you go, wow, they showed up and we're there for listening because I think obviously parents have the number one discipling role, 100%.
Sure.
But but it's the people that come alongside those parents that are reinforcing these kids.
Hmm.
And I think it's even harder today, but for the kids to remember that they're loved, that they're cared for. If your parents are stupid, but maybe these other people aren't, right? Even because teenagers sometimes think, "Oh, my parents are stupid," but there's people that are going to pour into these students, and I just say thank you because they're giving up a lot more. I'm paid to do it.
Mm.
They're not. They're giving up 1 to 2 days a week
Yeah.
to invest in people, like your kids.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thanking them constantly when I'm seeing them at youth group and things like that. Like, I understand the role, and it can't happen without it, and especially given how big our youth group was, like,
Yeah, well, and those adults, let me think about it. These adults are when we go on a weekend retreat. I mean, they're giving up all their sleep. They're giving up everything, right? They're giving up their sleep. They're giving up vacation time. We're going to Mexico for goodness sakes,
yeah.
and giving up 2 weeks of their time, and they're giving up sleeping on the floor, sleeping on nice, really good floors, I'm sure, and getting no sleep. And what are they doing? They're giving this up so they can be with students
Yep.
who at the time, do they really care? I mean, I don't, do they really appreciate, I should say, that these adults like a Joe Lane or whoever are giving up their time to invest
Hmm.
in students.
Yeah, something that, not that we took it for granted as students, but we just don't fully understand. We don't understand adult responsibilities and things like that.
Nor
So,
should you, nor should they,
yeah,
by the way. I
yeah.
don't think they should. I mean, I don't think it's their responsibility to do that. But I was very blessed with a church that was willing to give all the resources, all the time, and all the people that we needed.
Hmm.
And I don't think I can't ever remember a time that there was a no.
Mm. Wow.
And it wasn't anything that I got to make sure I state this. It wasn't anything that I did. I mean, God could have used, I think, put anybody in there and it would have grown and it would have blossomed. I just was fortunate to be in the right position at the right time.
Hmm.
And the church was, and it's also in the right area, right? That was a booming area and just took off. So,
Hmm. Yeah, we're really lucky to be part of it. It's really
yep.
fun to watch. I have a question about something that's come to mind here with some of the other guests who have made a comment on the discipleship group part of things, because we're
Yep.
talking about these events, right? And like, yeah, there's a Wednesday night and people are there. It's a trip, and that's a long commitment too. But we have these mentors who were like involved with us almost on a one-on-one basis for those of us who wanted to be in this discipleship group. Some of the comments that we've received are like, that was great, but also is kind of like separating like super Christians from not.
Yep.
And I was like,
Yep.
man, I never thought of it that way. Is that something that kind of still happens in youth group or church
No, I would
settings?
say, I think if I'd go back and do it differently, it would be, I would probably handle it a little bit different. And what I mean by that is for students that would want it, it was supposed to be some that was in the mind in the beginning, it was supposed to be for these, people that wanted it, but I think it
Hmm.
almost maybe felt like an exclusive club. And that was never the heart behind it, but I
Yeah.
think if I go back and do it differently, I probably would,
Hmm.
looking back 30 years. But yeah, it was never supposed to be these super Christians. But I think the exclusivity of it probably, I can see why it felt that way. Yeah.
I don't think anyone thought there was any bad intent or malicious
No,
intent
I
behind it or
don't get
anything
that,
like
but I
that. It
can
was just
also
like, oh
see,
man, yeah.
yeah, I would think the heart behind it was good, but I think I would do it differently today if I'd go back.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Overall, just like, let's talk about Five Oaks specifically, because
Yeah.
what did you just love about it? Like, what are the things that make you most affectionate for that time?
There's so much. I would say boy, I could list so many things from Henry to being his support and honestly not being a cookie cutter pastor.
Mm.
Uh, I'll never forget, he tormented my kids, tormented them. I mean, scared the tar. And my kids still remember that to this day. So I think Henry, in his authenticity, he was who he was. And I loved that. I loved about having just a real pastor
Hmm.
with Henry. I loved the church. Didn't see student ministry as it's yes, they need to be seen but not heard. And
Mm.
it was put him in this corner. That was never them.
Hmm.
Never. They were like, bring them, and doesn't matter the issues, bring them. I loved that. I loved that Five Oaks had a feel of they're willing to do whatever it takes they also, I mean, really invested financially in trips, retreats. We did a challenge trip, I think, to Atlanta down in, you guys were gone, I think, at this time. It was 96. We took 90 of us. We took
Hmm.
almost 100 of us and drove. I think your last year might have been 92.
No,
What was,
97
Oh,
is mine, and
98.
it was after my time, but I think it was 98.
it was 98. Yes, it was. You're right. It was 98.
Yeah. So
And we
wasn't it
went
the
down to it.
Olympics?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was
And
probably graduating.
yeah, I think you guys were gone and it was crazy. It was absolute because yeah, that's right, because it was 94 and 96. And it was, I was like, what in the world? And there was 90. And it was just that many students to be able to do it. I don't know. The Five Oaks also had a had a heart for just people in general. And that really drove me to who I am today
Hmm.
and having a love for people. So, yeah, I have a very special place in my heart. When we left Five Oaks, it was the hardest, most grueling thing, and I never wanted to leave.
Hmm.
And I'll just say this transparently. My wife and I didn't want to go. They didn't want me to go. I just felt, and I don't see a rainbow and it's a sign from God. It's a rainbow, right? For me. So if God wants to get my attention, I need a two by four across the head. And then I still need another couple two by fours across the head. And when it was kind of feeling like, okay, maybe I'm getting kind of lazy in the sense of just spiritually, and what I mean by that, going through the motions, I realized it may be time for me to look
Hmm.
at stepping out. And when we came out here to Pittsburgh, I it didn't come into the top 185 places that I wanted to be.
Hmm.
And it's definitely, we love it. We love being out here. I'll be here indefinitely, but Five Oaks, leaving that was leaving my family.
Hmm.
And so if you ask what was special about it, it really was family. It didn't matter the size. It was the family. And I think you could be authentic and be yourself. My kids, this is probably the best place I'd say about Five Oaks too. My kids could be kids and there wasn't anything, no apologies about it. And they were allowed to be kids.
Hmm.
They were allowed. I'll never forget. I was teaching a class at Five Oaks, and they had this glass. But and I see my son and his best friend, and they're riding the stick, and they're doing Monty Python, and the kid behind is doing two coconuts, going, and they're walking through doing this stuff through, and I'm like, what in the world are they doing? And I just, it was this weirdest thing, but it just reminded me of my kids are allowed to be stupid and allowed to be kids.
Sure.
And there was no feeling like, oh, man, you don't do that here. Or, you know what, come on, shouldn't we have a little more respect?
Sure.
No, they could be kids. And I loved that. And I think that was kind of the feel of Five Oaks.
Like you said, you didn't shove us in a corner or anything. Like we were
No,
fully part of the church and active in the congregation.
no, not at all. So I think that was probably the best part about it.
So tell us, after you moved, did you stay in youth ministry at that church, or did you not graduate? I
Yeah,
don't know what
no.
the
So
right
when
word is.
I actually left, so crazy, when I was at Five Oaks, for the last, I don't know how many years, I was probably out of student ministries the last 4 years at
Hmm.
Five Oaks. So I transitioned to being the executive pastor back in about 2000. So it was actually the last 7 years. Tim kind of, let's see, was it? Maybe it's 2002 to 5. Tim was the youth pastor while I was there.
Hmm.
So I transitioned to being the executive pastor, but I still led some trips. I still came to some events, and so I did that. But I went into being the executive pastor at Five Oaks for about 5 years,
Okay.
and then came out here, and I've been the executive pastor out here for 18 years out in
Gotcha.
Pittsburgh.
Did they ever like want you to sub in? They're like, "Hey, man, all right,
So
you."
here's what's crazy. So I have led student ministries and different things that I've taught. I've taught classes. I've actually led a youth mission trip here, and my wife and I led the college ministry here for about 6 years.
Nice.
and we had about 50 college students in our house every week.
Hmm.
Huh.
It was bizarre. It was, again, we had 50 college students every week. We'd have dinner for them. We'd teach, then break into small groups, and it was in our house. You're saying 50 people in your house. It just worked.
Hmm.
And but it was again, still having a heart for not student ministry, but you know what I mean, having a heart. And we did that from 2010 to 2016.
Wow.
I mean, that
Nice.
feels like that original youth group, right? We were
It
meeting in
really
people's
is.
houses. Now,
Caleb?
did you force the college kids to watch Home Improvement? That's what
I
I want to
did.
know.
I did. You know what? I don't remember. I try to think of when I ever made you watch, but I'm sure I did. I remember there
Oh,
was.
we did.
Oh,
It was
I'm
like
so
every week. I think we stopped. We would do like introduction, and then we'd stop for Home Improvement, and then we'd like do the Bible study. I swear that's what we did for the first year or so.
Caleb, I'm sure there's some embellishment there, but I'm sure also my memory is not good, and I'm sure a lot of that is probably true. And I'm going, man, what youth pastor would do that? But I have no doubt, Caleb, I did that. That's very funny. Yeah, I laugh when my son now is a youth pastor, and I've actually joked. I've said, man, he's a better youth pastor than I ever was on so many different levels. But funny, he, in some ways, I mean, he's as crazy. I mean, he tore his ACL at a camp because he ripped it, and it was a good one too, by the way. I mean, he was messing with the students and playing volleyball, and I think he took 156 junior high students to this junior high camp. I don't know how many senior high, 80 to 100, I think, but he tore his ACL being a youth pastor and ripped it good, and he's recovering now. He's doing pretty good.
Hmm.
But I mean, it was about a 6 to 9 month recovery for him.
Yeah, that's an injury for sure. Is that
Yeah.
like a work comp thing? Like,
Well, I gotta be careful on how I'm going to say this, but he said, "Dad," and I go, "Josh, that's workman's comp." You need to, because as an executive pastor, I said, "Buddy,
yes,
yeah, because he's doing it on the job, right? He's
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, whether it's the discussions about things, that are past the statute of limitations, here's the thing, John. No one listens to this podcast, so you can say
oh yeah,
anything you
I'm
want.
sure that's great.
You can say anything you want.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, no one. Yeah, I'm sure.
I would be
Oh, my
interested to talk to Josh for many reasons, but like just kind of get his take on like that youth group time versus what he's doing.
Yeah, he has crazy memories about both of you guys, and I don't think your kids would want to hear these memories he has. So, so you could maybe, Caleb, you talked about kids listening. I don't, but he has memories but really good of allowing him to, be a student and wrestle with his faith and what does that look like, and then owning his faith as an adult and he fought for a long time, and I never said, "Oh, Josh, you need to be a youth pastor."
Mm,
I did think he belonged doing it, but it wasn't for any dream that I had, for goodness sakes.
mhm.
And it wasn't until probably the end of his, gosh, right before his senior year, he in college, he said, "Dad, I hate to say this, but I think I belong in ministry." And we kind of laughed. And I just said, "Okay." And so then we kind of helped him walk through that. But yeah, and he's loving where, I mean, he absolutely loves where he's at. And
That's awesome. That's great. Good for him. Maybe we should reach out to him, see if he wants to chat. It'd be fun.
oh, I think you'd probably enjoy him more than me in a lot of ways because he could tell you stories, probably more truthful stories than I'm telling you. So,
I just think the game's so different too. I mean, what
oh
he's going,
gosh,
like I know you
exactly.
went through stuff and there was challenges. I can't imagine today. Like it's just
oh
such a different ball game today. I think that's one of the things that we've kind of discovered is people who've been still involved in some way.
yeah.
Like the stuff they talk about, they're like, it's a totally different youth group
I
experience.
don't think, Caleb, it's funny you said that because I walked in on Sunday night to our church because I had a meeting for something, and the youth are doing this crazy game, and I'm laughing and going, "Okay, that's great." But it reminded me of thinking, I don't know with what, I mean, every generation deals with different things. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, they all do. But what they're dealing with today, I'm it's I don't know if I would be effective as
Mm,
a youth pastor just because of the nature of it. I don't know how good I would be compared to what I was back in the 90s. And I'm not saying I was good in the 90s, but I'm saying
Hmm.
what was needed today is a very, very different pastor
Yep,
than what was needed back then.
I
Hmm.
agree.
Interesting. Well, we'll give it a
Yep.
shot. We'll see if he responds. How about you personally? Like, it's obviously you're watching over or trying to, guide kids and people through their spiritual lives. But how about for you? Like, things change over time. How is your faith different now compared to back then?
Yeah, good question. I would say probably as much as things are different, much as the same. I have I just was telling someone not that long ago, I probably have more of a burden today than I ever have for the church and for people. So I probably am more passionate today than I was back then about the big C, the big, the
Mm,
C, the big church, in the sense of I really still believe more than ever that the church is that Jesus is the answer, that Jesus is the only way, that it's about Christ. And so I have more of a burden today than I ever have. But I also have, so my faith in that sense has deepened, but I also have probably more of a marathon approach and more of a relational approach than even what I did back then. I'm probably still very black and white, but I have a much more of a softer gray approach to things in
mm,
how I handle things. So I really care. My wife and I, Michelle and I, have such a burden for people that don't know Jesus, and so that's why we take people in all the time, and that's why our small group we meet every week. But I also try to take the long approach of shoving things in people's faces. Probably isn't the right approach. It isn't the right approach. And so it isn't the right approach. And I probably was much more in your face a little bit, maybe 30 some years ago, where today I have probably a much deeper faith and a much deeper understanding of that. But I also, when you look at Christ and what he did, I mean, it was about relationships, right? It was about the long, the looking at the long approach.
hmm
And so, it's, you talk about Boothar on but he would run marathons, right? And so it's not a sprint. This is a 26.2 mile race. And so
hmm
for me, I think where I'm broken, and you didn't ask this, but I'll say it, but probably what breaks me a little bit though is people who have either walked away from the faith or people who have decided, it's not, I still believe with every bone in my fight, with everything I have, that it's about Jesus
hmm
and that he's still the answer. He's still the way.
hmm
He is still the only way. And so I that really burdens me. And so then I wonder, gosh, could I have done things differently 30 years ago? Right. I mean, I do go back and go, crap, I wish I would have done this or that. But, the relationships that drove me back in Five Oaks is what drives me today. The people that I connect with, the people that I care about, I care more about people who don't know Jesus or people who don't they know about Jesus than I really do about the people that claim to love Jesus. I'm not saying they don't, but I mean my
hmm
heart probably beats more for people that says, I don't know if I get this.
Sure.
Hmm.
I'd rather talk with them.
Sure. Sure. We've had conversations with people who are all over the place, right?
Yep, I
People
know
who
you
are
have. Yep.
still like, we talked to Mike. Dude, Mike came to that youth group. He's never left. He's never left that church. It's amazing. Like he's
Well, you
been
know
there.
what? When Mike came, and I'll say this about Mike, and I'm not joking. I looked up and they said, I think it was at a Dustin McAllister. Is that right? Dustin McAllister?
Yeah.
I think
I think
that's what you
Dustin.
so.
referenced. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he stands up. I don't know how I pulled that name.
Dawson, not Dustin. Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
I
Dawson
Yeah.
still
McAllister.
don't know
Yep.
how I pulled that name out because I have no idea. And I remember, and they go, if you see these guys standing or whatever, you need to go stand by him. And I looked up and I looked behind me. I see this guy. I didn't know him, and he came with Leah, I think. And so I see
hmm
him back there, and I'm like, who is this guy? And so I go stand next to him. It was awkward even for me as an adult. I'm going stand next, put my hand on him, praying for him. I didn't know this guy
hmm
at all. Didn't know him. And from that day, he started coming, and it was really because of you two guys really investing in Mike.
Hmm.
giving him a safe place to feel like he can fit in. And not that he wasn't fitting in school, but to have a place where he can be.
Yeah, he had
Yeah.
a little bit. He needed a safe space away from home. His
Yep,
home life was a little
absolutely.
rocky. So like, yeah, we were able to do that.
Yeah,
So
he straight said that when he was like
yeah.
it filled a void that family life wasn't necessarily filling for him. And you bring up Leah. Leah, I mean, how many people did she invite? I mean, she probably invited half the
Oh, I
school,
know.
And so it's it is, I think it is kind of that aspect of it of she felt it's not just that Mike felt safe and like he was getting that family presence and some of those needs met, but like Leah felt safe that she could invite everyone. And
I
there's
agree.
that safety part of it plays out in different people's lives. And I think it was very true of it. Like we felt safe to say it was on our minds at times. Maybe we said too much at times, but like there was a safety I think that was in our youth group,
Hmm.
experience for sure.
Hmm.
Well, and I'm glad you said that, Caleb, because I think, at least from my perspective, I want, and I don't think it's any different today, that I think there's a void in all of us that's been put there, and that I think only Christ can fill, right? So it is, I think, to have that void filled. I think a lot of times we try to fill it with other things, but yeah, I'm really glad that I want students today and 30 years ago. I wanted them to know they're loved, that
Hmm.
there's a God in heaven that's crazy about them.
Hmm.
And it doesn't matter what their family looks like, and they feel their family cares for them. They're loved and they belong. And
Hmm.
I, that's always burdened me.
Yeah, I was going back to the idea of like gaining some identity or feeling like you're a good youth pastor based on how many kids were coming, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
With someone like a Mike or a Bill or some other people we've talked to recently who, we talked to a guy a couple weeks ago who's like, he's just been like a volunteer for close to 20 years. Like, amazing, right? But then you have other people who went and we've talked to people who are now atheists or they've just completely like walked away. I can imagine seeing some of those things happen. Of course, deconstruction has been a very popular course for people over the last 10, 15 years. Like, I can imagine some of that is like, oh, is that a reflection on me? Like you said, could I have done anything different?
Yeah, I would say that's a good question. Yes, and but I would say complete transparency. I think I do look at that, but I also look back and I kind of mourn over some of that. I kind of saddened by some of that because in the end, I mean, we're deconstructing and we have been for 2000 years in some ways.
Hmm.
I mean, things are changing and we look at things and we try to, make it look different than we have. And so I often say this, and I'm not trying to get political, but I will say this. I really passionately, I get really tired of it on both sides. It's our job as a church, my job as a pastor, my job as a believer is to help people be lovers of Jesus, not be lovers of Trump, not be lovers of Kamala, to be lovers of Jesus. That's my job.
Hmm.
That is my job. Is I want people to love Jesus.
Hmm.
Forget the politics. It just drives me nuts. It's about Jesus. And as a pastor and as a believer, it's to be lovers of Jesus. And that's what it comes back to.
Hmm.
I think we overcomplicate things too much.
Yeah.
And it really does come back to and I get in trouble on saying that for everybody, but I mean I still stand by this. It
Yeah.
truly is it's my wife and I would say the same thing. If I've done nothing else, I want people to know he loved Jesus, he sold out to him, and that's all that mattered. And if they know that about me, I mean,
Yeah.
trust me, I'm not perfect. You guys know that. You both knew that back then, and I'm not perfect today either. But even for my kids, I wanted my kids to know, there was nothing else that mattered to me for my kids, that they knew they were loved by us and they knew they were loved by God.
Hmm.
And I think they do.
Well, and I will take the opportunity right now just to say that, like, our intention of making this podcast was in no way a referendum on your you as a
Well,
youth pastor. It's not like if you go back.
yeah, it kind of felt like that in the beginning, guys. Yeah,
We're
well,
putting you on trial.
It's not like if you go back through it all and be like, well, today we're talking about 8th grade and why, I need to go to therapy for it. Like, this is not it. It's
trust me, if you got a lot, there's a lot of things I did that you need therapy from. I know that. I have no quorums with that. I know that you guys have, if you got therapy, there's other things I've done besides that. I own it, guys.
my therapist would like to meet you, actually.
Well, and you know what? And I have a lot of things I'd like to tell your therapist, guys.
I'm just
I,
kidding.
I think we joke about it, but like, and I know there are some people who have been hurt by churches. Like,
Sure, absolutely.
we're not trying to gloss over that. But I think even people we've talked to a couple of people who've left the faith, even they can look back and recognize what a special moment they had. And these are people. I don't think they're Five Oaks people that I'm thinking of, because again, we've stretched out the podcast to kind of other people that we've met along the way, and like even they can like recognize like what a special time it was. And what I think has been amazing, and I know this would not be everybody's tune, but I think almost everybody can recognize like, wow, my youth pastor and the youth workers loved me, and how important that was to me, which I still think is a pretty, like, how many other events were you involved with in high school where you look back and you may feel differently than you felt in high school about that, but you still have this like affection for the experience. I don't think that happens very often. So it is a unique experience.
I agree with you, Caleb, on that. I would say that's very true. I think what's hard, though, if I'm going to be laying my emotions out a little bit, is but what I said was, I'm really glad you remembered my quote, because you know what, I don't care so much where you're at right now, but I care where you're going to be at 5, 10 years from now. That is, I still believe that passionately is, in the end, I'm not just saying that, I truly do believe it's about Jesus. And so we have to come to answer for that. And at times that's hard for me to hear when people have walked away. Is it a reflection on me? No, yes, whatever. But it's still hard, because I wonder, could I have done something different, or, what would have looked like? And that's just being human, right? That's just being honest.
Yeah.
But no, I also see it as, for a lot of us too, it's like a 500-page novel. We're only in chapter 4. And
Right.
so it's part of it, that story hasn't been written yet, and it's still evolving and changing. And what I care about, I mean, I have the burden that I have for people is I want them to know Jesus. And so that, it's funny, as a youth pastor and now as an executive pastor, that hasn't changed. It's increased, but and I'm still pretty intense, but I have more of a softer side, and a little bit more of I'm not even close to being as rigid as I was.
I have to ask about the intensity, because that's something Tim brought up.
It did.
And Tim was like, the immediate thing that he did was like, guys, we're not meeting on Sunday mornings at 7:00 anymore. He's like, we got to move this to the afternoon. I don't want to be up this early. And so he was like saying it, and I was like, was that John's intensity? Or is that because John wanted to watch the Vikings? And it was like, look, we got to be done with church by noon so I can get home.
Amen. I will say yes, God. Yes. What am I going to do? I don't want to meet at noon.
I cracked the code.
Come on, it's Vikings. I am not going to miss that. I mean, I love Jesus, but I still can watch my Vikings be a fan.
You can do both things.
And you can do both. It doesn't have to be either or. Yeah, I hate mornings, guys. And seriously, I hate mornings. So there is a stupidity to that. I admit, I repent. I apologize. I ask for forgiveness. Bar was amazing on that. He could and that's what I mean. There's these guys. I think God used Moses. He was not a good speaker. There were so many things about Moses. He used him because he was willing. Listen, there are so many better. Tim was a much better youth pastor than I ever was. And by the way, so was my son, I said. But for whatever reason, God chose to take off the youth group at Five Oaks. I don't think it was anything that I did or anybody else did. It really was because it was just the right place at the right time. So
Sure. Sure.
yeah. But yes, 7 o'clock, Caleb, you're not spiritual enough. You should get up and want to be up at 7 o'clock.
Dude, I hated some this morning. It's so because Caleb and I were probably sleeping over, right?
Yeah, or
He was-
working.
yeah.
How often were we working Saturday
Yeah.
night still?
Oh,
Work
trust me,
till 2, you know.
trust me. Looking back, that's one of the things that was changed. Okay, everybody, get it out there. And people,
I'm a morning. I love
go.
being up early. I love the fact that I'm up 2 hours before
shut.
the rest of my family. It's the
Listen,
best.
I hate it. I don't want to interfere with God's time with the Chinese people. I do not want to get up that early. I hate it. I hate early morning. My wife's like, oh, she's all happy, and I'm like, what are you? Be quiet. I hate
Yeah.
this thing. I'd rather do midnight. I'd rather do 11 o'clock at night.
Same.
I'm much happier.
Me and you are the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd much rather do that.
There you go. All right.
Thank you, Caleb, for laughing at that one. You're good. Yeah, okay, whatever. Oh my gosh.
I forgot about those when we talked about that with Tim, Caleb. So thank you for bringing that up because, back to like the discipleship group thing, like
Yeah.
you guys had everything going on. Like we, just wanted to invest as much as possible. And it's like, well, this is the right time. So
Yep, I get it.
Makes sense. And so are there any other like events or like teachings you kind of approach a little bit differently now? We've talked a little bit about like looking back and regretting things you might have done or, second guessing yourself. At this
I
point.
would say the having more of the long approach was probably I probably would do that a little bit more. I'm a huge fan of that kind of approach of more seeing the longevity piece than I am. I'm not saying that I felt like I was the main discipler. Maybe in a few people I was, but I also probably should have taken more of an approach coming alongside parents more than I did.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I think if looking back, I probably, saw myself as a rescuer in some ways for some, and I probably should have done a better job of working with parents. I mean, I did work with parents, but not to the extent that I should have.
Sure. I would not have thought, again, something you just kind of take for granted. Like, you're obviously concerned about the kids, but you got to deal with the parents. I've said this a lot, I'm a baseball coach. I got to deal with parents too, and that's a group of 12, not 150.
Correct. And no matter what it's kind of like during COVID, no matter what you do, you're wrong, right? During COVID, didn't matter what, I don't care which side. I mean, I can't tell you, I had people on this side saying, how dare you open the church? You're killing us. On the other side, how dare you making us mask? You're killing. I mean, it was both sides, and it didn't matter what you did, whatever decision, it was wrong. Well, in the same thing with parents at times, and parents are right because they're children, and so they love them. But at times you have, if you have 150 students, you have 300 parents that are coming at you.
Mm-hmm.
And and so your job is to minister to parents as it is in some ways, as much as to minister to
Right.
students. And so I'm trying to do that partnership. And then these days, the family, I didn't deal with it as much back 30 some years ago, but the amount of the divorce rate and the, single parent homes and no parent homes and grandparents raising kids these days, all of that is much different than what I had to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
I remember asking my kids when we were still in Minnesota, and I said, do you ever worry about us getting divorced? And they said, no, never. And then as they got older, they never worried about us, but so many of their friends were going through, their parents were going through divorces, and they never worried about it with us. But I think that's a whole different element in student ministries today is ministering to the two-parent home is not the norm anymore. And I think that is a challenge for a youth pastor that I never had to deal with.
So, as I mentioned, no one listens. Tell us the worst parent story you ever had.
Oh my God.
No, I'm just kidding. Don't. That's just a joke. That was not.
Well, Caleb.
People do listen.
People do listen.
Nope, guys.
Yes.
I
Yes,
still
save
have
John.
friendships back.
John is currently looking at his watch and saying it's time to go.
Oh, look at the time. Huh?
Oh, this flew by really quickly. Some of my part of, like my favorite question is kind of because I think about this a lot for myself. Caleb was just saying the other day that he hasn't really answered this question for himself yet, but what would your 30-year ago self say to your current pastor self and vice versa? Like, what advice would you give each other?
I'll go from what I'd say today, what I'd say back 35 years ago. Enjoy the ride more.
Hmm.
Enjoy it. Don't take yourself so seriously.
Hmm.
And trust that the Lord, trust and taste that the Lord is good. Trust and taste that if the Lord can lead the Israelites, into the promised land, if he can take care of, all the issues that we've gone through, he can definitely take care of you. Trust that. So I would say just enjoy the ride a little bit more. That's what I would tell myself 30 some years ago.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Enjoy it.
I like
Uh,
that.
it's okay. What would I tell myself today from back then? I would say, gosh, probably to remember what you got into youth ministry for. Remember what you
Hmm.
got in for was to change lives. Because, I'm the executive pastor at a large church, and sometimes it's about policy and processes and
Hmm.
procedures, and so just to remember it's about the people, right? So that's why you got into it in the beginning.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
to remind it's still about Jesus. It hasn't
Hmm.
changed.
Hmm.
So I would say on both ends. But if I look back, and I love the question of telling myself, it's enjoy the ride.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
Which is interesting because we've gotten that from other people. Like, don't take yourself so seriously, is like
yeah,
something that like people are looking back at their 18-year-old self and being like, I wish I would have somebody would have told me that, or I wish I would have heard that message. So it's
yeah, but I
interesting to
never would have
just
listened anyway. I mean, I honestly, I wouldn't have listened. I wouldn't have listened to myself going, "Oh yeah, come on, whatever." Yeah, you
Right.
don't understand. This is important,
Yes.
and this is what's critical, and
Yes.
and so I would have told myself, and I wouldn't have listened to me anyway. But I wish, I mean, if I could go back and I knew, you know, and I honestly probably the other thing, it has nothing to do with student ministries, but trust that the Lord has it all figured out, right? So I mean, I worried so much about who I'd marry and all of this and and then I look at the woman I got, and trust me, there's people that I'll kick their coverage, and then there's me that, way I'll kick my coverage, and
I learned that phrase from you, and I still
yeah,
use it today.
hey, it's amazing. Even a blind squirrel can find a nut, right? And that's me. Um, but it's amazing that I look and I go, God is wants to bless me in ways that I can't even imagine. And there's so many things that I dreamt of. This is how my life's going to look. It didn't even come close.
Mm.
None of it did. And it's so much better than I ever could imagine.
So, a story that Caleb and I have often reminisced over is the Steve Taylor Guardian concert at Concordia College, which was my first concert. And I believe it was us three and Derek, maybe Ryan too, and
I
we
think Ryan
went.
was there. Yeah.
And you were like, I'm not moshing. I'm just gonna stand on the side. And like current me is like, I get it. I will also stand on the side if I were to go to one of those shows now. But you were there along on that ride with us with this music burgeoning, and you had
Yep.
your kind of favorites and everything. How do you relate to some of those? How do you relate to that music that was coming out in the late '80s, early '90s that we would call CCM music?
Yeah, so it's funny. I remember vividly of you, Caleb. Might have been you too, Scott. I don't remember. Was it Supertones or if it was ska, right? There was some of
Oh
this,
yeah.
right? And which is pretty tame these days. Um, and I would tell you that so much of that music is music in the sense of I have zero issues and define Christian music, okay, whatever, but it's the music that I think is impactful on people, and it's what makes it Christian, but I would just say it's music that can be impactful. I really enjoy. I'm still so my wife and I are big time hikers, big time hikers.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so like we just did I don't know what we did this last weekend, 10 mile hike. And so I have this playlist and I'm playing in it. It goes everywhere from today's music, Christian music to 70s and 80s rock that's secular, or a lot of my Petra and other stuff, but it's my wife said it has to be stuff that is upbeat music, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's for me, I love music in general, so it doesn't really matter the style. It's just more of I appreciate probably more of the older music because it seems, but this is because I'm old now and set in my ways, right? It's I appreciate some of the older stuff because it seemed to be a little bit more, not all of it, by the way, because some of it's horrible lyrics in the sense of just the same repeating themselves over and over and over. But I do like some of the stuff back then because the lyrics seem to be a little bit like put some thought into it for once.
Sure. Creativity. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little more creativity where, and what we do today is we recreate what's back then, right? We rewrite
Sure.
the songs and do new. So, but I'm still a big music fan. I listen to music 24/7. You guys would love to know this, and you can mock me, and your listeners can mock me. So have fun on this one. You're gonna love this. So there's a guy from Five Oaks. He was the best man at my wedding. I was a brand new Christian, and he still goes to, and he actually started going to Five Oaks. His name is Chris. Well, Chris drove all the way out here. Him and his wife spent the about 3 4 days with, and we went to one of the last concerts for Petra a year ago. It was in
Yes.
March. They had a reunion. It was probably one of the best experiences I've had in the last 25 years at a concert. And I'm telling you, John Schlitt could still hit those. I mean, as a 73-year-old guy, I was like, what in the world?
He could wail, dude.
He did, but I was like, I brought tears to my eyes. It was like,
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
reminded me why I appreciated why I loved music. But yeah, I went and saw Petra for the first time. It was great. It was
That was the
like,
first time you've seen him.
well, I've
No,
seen
no,
him.
no.
No, I've
Oh,
seen him
First
many
time in a
times,
while.
Okay,
but I haven't
okay.
seen him in
Just
like
making sure.
probably 20 years.
Yeah.
They took a break for a while, and
Oh,
now
yeah,
they've
they
been-
did.
They're kind of doing this whole thing again. This has become a theme that I pull out a record every. I got one though. Hang on.
This is Caleb's thing, right? Is he just constantly every day posts, this album came out 30 years ago or something. He's been cataloging all this music, which has been great because it's a lot I've forgotten about.
Oh, I still go back and listen to, you name the genre. I'll listen to today's, but I enjoy probably a little bit more then because that had such an impact on me as a new Christian. So especially from the early 80s, even though I wasn't a Christian, then I'd go back until probably the mid 90s. That genre really meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
Just because of the impact of, I just love the music. What are we listening to, Caleb? I want to
Yeah,
hear.
yeah.
You Scott brought up Steve Taylor, and I do think Steve Taylor is like. So this is I've gone back on Steve Taylor, and I have all of his old records from the.
I
early
want to be a
80s.
clone. I want to be
Yeah.
a clone, right?
Yeah.
Yep. There's Meltdown.
Mm.
Meltdown. Yeah.
So
Meltdown
and
at Madame Trousseau's.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then on the Fritz, I'm releasing a podcast on this in a couple weeks on the Fritz.
They
'cause it's
considered
celebrating
him. He was a great producer, correct, for a
Yeah.
lot of Christian music.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's in the last year or so. There's a couple artists that I've kind of realized how important they were, and Steve Taylor's one of them.
Yeah.
And so it's funny, like that connection.
He was brilliant. And what he would do, and his lyrics were, he was on the cutting edge back then,
Yeah.
telling a story or getting a
Yeah.
point across in a song where back then you didn't do that as much, a little bit, but he did. Like he had
Yeah.
a song that it was impactful to me, and it was kind of a crazy song. People don't know it's called Lifeboat. And it
Oh, sure.
was, and people don't know that song. No one does it. I'm surprised you guys, but I get
People do know that song. I'm in a community of like people who just talk about Christian music. People do know that
all right.
song.
Caleb, your community's kind of okay, but anyway. But, okay, so I'm encouraged that people know that song because they don't know who Liz Taylor is because in the song he talks about Liz Taylor and all these things. But there's actually a music video on it.
There
It's
is.
a great music video, and I think we miss some of that from music today. He's telling a story, and it's a phenomenal story.
Mm-hmm.
And in that song, and I love Steve Taylor. I do. I loved him.
His ability to be satirical, like
Yes.
that like there's it, man. It's come up on the show before. The idea of text and then subtext, like
Yeah.
you had to look at his words and go just a little deeper, and that's not for everybody. Like that, I'm not saying everybody has to do that, but that ability to kind of get to a deeper meaning or to play with convention enough to make you think and go, what this is, because it's a weird song, but it makes you think and it makes you question what he's doing. And then when you read kind of the history of that song and like what he's getting at, it's an important topic, you know?
Yeah.
It was great. I will say the reason I love the Petra concert so much, I'll never forget when I was sitting there. I was at the time I was probably 57 when I went to the concert last year, and I had tears in my eyes because I remembered thinking back as a kid in high school when I first heard it. I was a senior in high school, so I was 17, 18 years old, and thinking I just met Jesus, so I was 18, and I'm thinking and I heard this Petra album and it changed me. It just was like, what?
Hmm.
And it really did change my life from the standpoint of realizing the lyrics and some of the stuff. And for me, I just remembered thinking back to a kid who was 18, thinking I was contemplating suicide, and there was so much going on in my life. And then I met Jesus, and it drastically changed. And I thought music had such a profound effect on me that it was pretty crazy. So music, Petra, for whatever reason, that just had a big impact. And
It'll stick
so
with you.
yeah, so and Austin, I put times of my life at music too, right? So there's things that
Absolutely.
When
Uh,
it came out in, sorry, Scott, I keep on interrupting you. It came out in our
Go
youth
ahead.
group experience too, like because you would do like we didn't have a band. Like that's so many youth groups today. They all have
oh
bands.
yeah, they
and-
all do.
Yeah, but we didn't have that, and so instead
No.
we did that thing where you'd like show us a music video and then we talk about it, and like that is still something that I think has impacted like how I digest music because I can totally enjoy a band where I don't understand the lyrics, like I can do it, but like
Yep.
the bands that I love the most and the artists that I love the most are artists where the lyrics connect with me in some way and they say something to me almost across the board. Like
I
and
agree,
think it's-
Caleb.
I think it's a flow. It outflows from that. And my dad's love of Bob Dylan.
Yeah, and I do remember that. I also, and it was, I still believe today, if you need larger numbers, if worship has to be done well, or it's just gonna suck, and so it has to be done well, or it's gonna be a turnoff, and so, and I'm not saying that's always true. I'm just saying for me, if especially with the kind of students that we had, we did it at Challenge and we had it at retreats. But I didn't do it every week. Should I have? Probably. But for me, I didn't think it would be done well. And so I wanted, when we're going to do it, I wanted it done well. So I also didn't have, I was one of the only youth pastors I knew that didn't play guitar, right? So I was the only, because every youth pastor plays guitar. I
Right.
don't. Everybody else did.
Yeah, I would be remiss to say that that Steve Taylor Russ Taft project
Oh, yeah.
is
Oh my gosh.
pretty great. It's pretty
My
stellar.
my leader for album of the year so far in 2025.
Yeah,
Oh.
you got to check that out if you haven't. It's
I have not. And I
Yes.
loved Russ Taff. And yeah.
yeah,
It's great. It's
yeah.
fantastic. It's very reminiscent of the Johnny Cash album where he just does kind of all those old covers, and it has that same vibe, and there's something in his voice that like it makes you feel something. It's pretty amazing.
That's awesome. Okay, I'll look into it.
Well, you spend a lot of time with us here. I'll close with a few questions because I know that we all got to go, and we really appreciate all this catching up. But I would be remiss if I did not ask. Please tell me you remember the Human videos, and like, how did you choose who was going to be Jesus in the Champion?
Oh my gosh. I wish wow. I forgot about I didn't forget, but because you did it, I think both of you guys, didn't you? Caleb, were you not?
I was in the Champion once. I don't think I don't know what I was. Maybe I was Jesus at one
Scott,
point.
you were. I know
I
you
was
did
Jesus
it. Scott,
for
once,
sure was.
Yeah.
But a redheaded Jesus? Come on, guys.
well,
Come
I
on.
wanted to say that even redheads,
Can be
need
Jesus
Jesus, and I was trying to be this whole authenticity that even they could
Yeah.
possibly know Jesus. So, no, there was nothing. I'd like to say there's something spiritual behind it, but
I'm telling you, the Human video thing is a very ubiquitous experience we've had amongst our listeners. Like, everybody was doing it. And we found out from somebody else that there was like a regional and national competition basically for these things.
Oh, you're kidding me. No,
No,
I
some
did not. Oh, no.
denominations,
They, Again, I'm not that deep, guys. I'd like to take more, but I'm not. I had no idea, or I would have had us compete.
That's right. That's the competitive part of us.
No,
Yeah.
I did not. I knew nothing of it, but I do. Oh, absolutely. I did ones that were spinning plates. I did that
Yes.
one.
Yes.
I did the champion one. It was
Secret
Satan.
Ambition by
Secret
Michael
Ambition.
W.
Yes,
Secret
Smith.
Ambition
That's
by
the one
Michael
that Scott
W.
brought up,
Smith.
and it was
Yeah.
memories just flooding
Yep,
back.
all
And I was
those.
like, oh my god,
Those were three that were big. The Champion by Carmen, Secret Ambition by Michael W. Smith, the plates. I don't remember who said, but we did that one. I mean, there's all these ones, and yeah,
yeah.
they were a little corny. Those were some of the ones I go, gosh, would I do that again? I don't know, but I
Yeah. Again.
Somebody brought it up recently. They were like, there's the ultimate example of you're never gonna pull that off today. Like
No!
kids just wouldn't do it. They
Yeah.
wouldn't do it today.
Yeah.
And like
No, you'd be
we were
mocked.
so excited
Yes.
to do it. We were so excited to
We
do
loved it.
it. Yes. That's crazy.
you'd be mocked today, and
Yep.
probably rightfully so. But it was good back then.
It was amazing back
Again,
then.
it's a timepiece. A timepiece. Well, just like overall, how does the youth group experience being as a pastor watching us as the youth in that? How does that contribute to the person you are today?
Yeah, I don't feel worthy is probably the right word. Words. I don't feel worthy. To God has given me some experiences that I never thought I'd have, and very much blessings and treats, I guess, along the way. That it really has shaped me to feel that I'm blessed beyond I deserve. And I do. I've gotten a tremendous amount of people that have blessed me and poured into my life, and relationships. When I see both of you guys, and I hope you take this in the right way, but I have nothing but phenomenal, stupid memories that are very tender to me,
Mm.
very much so, as if they happened. And I don't see you guys as 45, 46-year-old men. And I don't mean that I see you as kids, but I see you as people that had a big impact on my life.
Mm.
I wasn't, I mean, I really I love you guys, but I loved you guys and genuinely. And there was something for me that it shaped who I was, and it shaped who I am. And I don't know how much of that was the youth group, how much of that was Five Oaks, that has allowed me to, why we, like I said, tonight we're meeting with a young lady who needs a place to stay.
Mm.
And so we're going to open our house for probably 3-4 months for her.
Mm.
Why? It's because it's the right thing to do.
Mhm.
But I don't say that to point. I don't know if I would have done that if it hadn't been. I mean, we had Bill live with us, good night of all things. And I mean, if I can survive that, I can survive anything.
That's
And I
true.
hope Bill's listening to this right now. I hope,
You,
I think you
um,
will.
you literally
good.
survived
No,
youth
I
group in
mean,
the 90s.
that was that just played a huge role into our marriage. I mean, our marriage is Michelle jumped in and did everything and anything, and both of us, it shaped our parenting. It shaped even our theology of just reminding us that God is crazy about us, and He loves
Mhm.
us and wants a plan for us. And so, yeah, if I could go back and do anything different, I wouldn't, from a standpoint of being at Five Oaks and student ministries, because it shaped who I am.
Awesome. Well, hey, man, I've been looking forward to this for quite some time, and we really appreciate you spending a couple hours with us on a Monday evening. So, thanks so much for pouring into us. I wouldn't be the person I am today without you pouring into us, for better
Thank
or
you,
worse.
guys.
But no, it's like, again, like Caleb was saying, that time frame was unique, and then also the experience of having such close, influential relationships and adults. Super
Well, and
meaningful to us.
I appreciate you guys and what you guys meant to me as well. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, man. Thanks for joining us.
You bet. Bye bye, guys.
Well, that's it. That is our final episode. We're going to try and maybe do a little wrap up next week or the week after, sometime soon. do a little wrap up episode. But want to say thanks to John, obviously. Again, like we said in the beginning, we did record this a while ago, but thanks to John for joining us, hanging out. Thanks to you for listening. We really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone who was on the show. This has been super fun to do. I'll still keep the music show going, so you can always check that out. It's called the Album Anniversary Podcast. Again, like we said, Scott will be on that for sure. So there's still some things we might try and do some other things here and there with this format. But for right now, wrapping this one up. Thanks so much for joining. Thanks so much for listening, and yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Scott, you're not going to ask the last question? Who was your favorite and why was it Scott?
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I saw that, and I had a great answer for it.
Oh,
I had a great answer,
we
but I'm
can
not.
edit it back in.
I can get it in there. I've gotten pretty good at this editing thing.
That was Missy's question. That was your wife's question.
That was my wife's question. My wife, I asked her, like, do you have any good questions you would ask? And she was like, who is your favorite? That was her immediate response. I was like, yikes, just going right.
Oh, I have
Right
plenty
for
of
the
answers. I got plenty of answers. Oh.
I'm sorry. I didn't scroll down on my email enough.
I saw
My
that
bad.
question, and I thought, no, I'm not. Yeah.
Oh,
Fair,
man.
fair.
Guys, it is so very good to see both of you. I mean that. Don't be strangers, please. But it is, especially you, Caleb, because I've kept in touch with Scott a little bit, but you not so much. So please.
Yeah, I just didn't end up back at Five Oaks very much, and so it's like I kind of was out at college for quite a bit, and then I'd occasionally make it back, but like, and then my parents weren't at the church, so because I know Scott was, I mean, my parents are still involved with people from Five Oaks, but yeah, it's
No, I get it. But you guys, I love both you guys. This is, I can tell you guys my years of, is how many years I have left in ministry is much less than what I have, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm winding it down. And so I can tell you it's been I feel honored and privileged to, God has given me a lot of blessings, and I'm very fortunate to have done this as I have. So
Yeah. It was, again, just like these things, memories have not left us, and they never will. So,
well, and they haven't
good
left
on
me,
ya.
obviously, or my wife.
It's-
'Cause I know we're not recording now, but she's, she's crazy, and she's put up with, you got to think 37, 38 years of marriage. She puts up with a lot for me, and is amazing in so many ways.
You're just saying that because she's in the room with you.
Actually, no,
It's the
exactly,
exact same
I know.
message. This
I know.
message has not changed in 30 years.
I know.
The second you say it, I'm like, this is
yes, this is
he has
John.
always communicated
It-
this message from the beginning.
Hey,
Yes.
you guys are
Amazing.
both married. No, there's one person outside of Jesus. You better make sure, and it's your wife, guys. It is your wife who is better. You better have her back.
I
'cause,
will say, like, that message of, because I'm probably not newly married, but younger married, at that
Oh, yeah.
time, like, that really rubbed off on me of, like, how to be, affectionate, but also just, like, praising your wife for who she is.
Oh,
like,
you
that's
have to,
always
man,
rubbed
'cause-
off on me.
Yeah, you're gonna be in deep crap, right? If you're not, because, and for her, she tolerates a lot more than I ever should have. She tolerates, puts up with a lot of my crap.
Yeah.
She doesn't. So anyway,
Well, tell Michelle I'll send you some cologne in the mail just to make sure you're fine and you're, still keeping up your end of the bargain. So,
I need it. All right, guys. God bless
All
you
right.
guys.
good to see you, man.
Yep.
Good to see you
All right,
guys.
bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye.
guys. Love you guys.
Well, that went great.
Yeah.